Arrow is one of the first characters you meet in Soul Hackers 2. He also becomes a valuable party member. In this video, I'm going to go through an epic level 25 build for Arrow in Soul Hackers 2. What's up YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an epic level 25 build for Arrow in Soul Hackers 2. In this video, I'll go through the build for Arrow, then I'll go through the build for the demon you want to attach to him at level 25. Then I'll get into some more gameplay and talk about why this build is absolutely epic for Arrow. Now I do want to mention there are a plethora of builds for every character as you're progressing throughout the game. Each individual character's build is going to depend on how you want to utilize him or her within your party. For this Arrow build, Arrow is going to be an offensive powerhouse. I'm focusing on Ice for my Arrow build, in which he's going to be my ice dealing offensive character. So that's just some tidbit of a spoiler for the build to come. So without further ado, let's get into the build. First, I want to talk about the setup of Arrow, and then I'll get more into the demon. So the accessory is going to be the stud gloves. This is going to give Arrow a defense of 19, increase MP by 30, and intelligence by 4. Now Arrow being an offensive attacker build at level 25, the intelligence is going to need to be as high as possible because I'm focusing on that intelligence, especially combined with Thoth. Now for the Mystique, it's going to be Ice Augment 3. This is going to increase the ice abilities because we're focusing on both ice and electric Mystique. And I also have Gunfire Boost for our MK90. What this is going to do is it's going to allow Arrow to deal increased ice and electric, as well as his base comp with his gunfire. So now let's check his skills. We're going to go into the demon in a second, but the summoner skills, of course, weakness stack. When striking a weakness, one demon joins the stack. Intelligence hack increases intelligence by 2. Again, I said we're focusing on intelligence because we're going to be dealing those electric and ice moves a lot. Then Vengeful Opportunist. When guarding, slightly recover HP. Gunfire stack, gunfire skills, add 1 demon to the stack when striking an enemy weakness. This pairs nicely with Arrow's base comp because he does deal gunfire damage. And then Wild Uproar. Higher stat counts in battle provide higher XP bonuses, which is nice to increase the XP gain. So now that I've talked about the setup for Arrow, let's get into the demon and talk more about why Thoth is a great pairing with Arrow. Thoth is going to be an absolutely fantastic demon to pair with a level 25 damage dealing Arrow build. First, Thoth's intelligence is absolutely fantastic, as you can see on the screen. This is going to coincide well with our Ice Electric offensive build for Arrow. Furthermore, Thoth gets great electric and ice type moves. First is Zionga. This is a medium electric damage to one enemy. Next is Bufula, a medium ice damage to one enemy. So 2 great moves, medium damage dealing right off the bat. Then we have Mazio, which is a weak electricity damage to all enemies, so you can hit multiple of enemies. You also get Null Sleep, so you can prevent from being afflicted with sleep, keeping Arrow in the battle longer. And Dodge Physical, which increases evasion against physical attacks. Now you can, once you level up Thoth, sub out either Dodge Physical or Null Sleep for a mana bonus, and I'm probably going to do so. I'm probably going to take out the Null Sleep for the mana bonus so I could get an increase in mana. And then if you look at the affinities of Thoth, defensively it's great. You resist fire, you block electric, and you're only weak to force. So now that I've gone over Thoth, let's get into some more gameplay and talk about why this setup is amazing for Arrow, and talk about the demons you need to fuse into Thoth so you can get a good one. Now that I've talked about the setup for Arrow at level 25, let's talk about why this is absolutely epic and talk more about the upgrades and why they work so well with each other. First, I want to talk more about the comp because I didn't talk about it as much earlier on in the video. So, you want to increase the ice affinity and electric affinity as high as possible so you can get those extra mystiques for those two affinities. So increasing the ice affinity and electric affinity up to level C are of course going to be great for Arrow because we're focusing on ice and electric for this level 25 Arrow. He's going to be our offensive intelligence damage dealer. Now a couple of other boosts for the comp that I did invest in are actually going to be 2 attacks, attack +3 and attack +4 for our comp. And the reason why this is important is because you're not always going to be able to hit an enemy's weakness with your ice or your electric. Sometimes you may run out of MP. Sometimes there are a few, although rare, enemies that resist both ice and electric, and you don't want to be dead in the water for Arrow. So increasing your comp's base attack is going to be important so you're not dead in the water when it comes to Arrow. The last increase for the comp is going to be that gunfire boost that we saw, which is going to increase the gunfire skills damage by 20% when striking an enemy weakness. There are enemies that are weak to gunfire, and sometimes it's prudent to utilize Arrow's gunfire, his base attack, to hit those enemy weaknesses. So don't neglect Arrow's comp, but we are going to focus on the ice and electric affinities. However, we have a couple of upgrades to the comp, the 2 attacks, the attack +3, the attack +4, and the gunfire boost, as well as our 2 ice affinities to level C. So those are the upgrades for our comp, which really work well with Arrow being an offensive powerhouse. Now let's talk about why we need the stud glove. We need that intelligence and MP increase. We're going to be focused on dealing ice and electric damage. So that stud glove, giving us the added intelligence and MP, is going to allow Arrow to constantly barrage the enemies with ice and electric type moves. On top of that, adding the ice augment is going to increase Arrow's ice skills, hitting the enemy for even more damage. Why do I go into ice plus electric at level 25? That's probably the biggest question on everyone's mind. Does it make sense to utilize ice plus electric? So now I'm going to give you some statistics from where I'm at in the game to this point. Being at level 25, doing a couple of side quests and also the main story, I've encountered 37 demons. Out of those 37 demons, 15 of them have been weak to either ice or electric, or a combination of the two. That gives me 41% coverage rate when it comes to striking an enemy's weakness. Of course, not even including dealing gunfire damage. Furthermore, 10 of those demons themselves are weak to ice. So just ice alone gives me a 27% coverage rate of the demons, so I can hit them for a weakness. And of course, we are really focused on ice for Arrow because it makes sense. I mean, really, we face Kaburagi, Arrow's best friend, who is weak to ice. So it only makes sense that you're able to deal damage to your best friend's weakness. But now let's add in the bosses, because I only talked about the demons you encounter and not the bosses. So if you add the 3 main story bosses up to this point, and of course, again, I'm taking my playthrough into consideration, I'm at level 25 where I have faced RS, Kaburagi, and Ash, so 3 more bosses to add to my 37 demons. 2 of those 3 bosses are weak to ice, RS and Kaburagi. So that gives me 13 out of the 40 are weak to ice for a 33% coverage. 1 out of every 3 enemy I face up to this point is going to be weak to ice. If you add in electric, so ice plus electric, 18 out of the 40 enemies that I have faced up to this point are weak to at least one of the 2, giving me a 45% coverage. That's pretty damn fantastic, where I almost hit 1 out of every 2 enemies for a hard-hitting damage dealer. So that's absolutely fantastic. On top of that, I have the weakness stack. The weakness stack is going to add an extra stack for the weakness to an enemy's, so that's nice. And if I do ever hit an enemy with gunfire, that's going to add a bonus demon to my stack as well. The intelligence hack that I have is going to increase my damage. So of course, Thoth is absolutely amazing for arrow at this point. He has a vast intelligence. That was his best trait, was intelligence. His strength isn't anything to laugh at. It's not great, but it's not bad, so that can help out with gunfire. But the intelligence is the main focus. The rest of Thoth's stats are pretty good as well. You also get a nice ice move and a couple of nice electric moves to pair well with this build for arrow. So Thoth is the way to go. You get a couple of nice moves for arrow, both ice and electric. You can also get a couple of nice defensive moves for arrow. Nulling Sleep is going to allow arrow to stay in the battle for any enemy that tries to put arrow asleep. Dodging Physical is going to help arrow out defensively. Of course, you want your damage dealer to stay on the battlefield as long as possible. The vitality from Thoth adding to arrow isn't amazing, but getting Dodge Physical is going to lessen that blow, allowing arrow to stay on the battlefield longer against enemies that are going to try to deal physical type damages to arrow. So this is the build for arrow at level 25, and I absolutely love it. I've been killing with it. Arrow has been dominating for me. He is my go-to character in an offensive battlefield. But let me know in the comments section what your arrow build looks like. Again, there are tons of builds for arrow, and it's going to depend on how you organize your team as to how your build for arrow is going to go. I'm curious to hear in the comments section what your builds for arrow is. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Soul Hackers 2 content. I do a bunch of other RPGs, so feel free to check those out as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, peace.